Hey, what's up, guys? Travis Peters here with the Increased Life. I got my good friend Steven Diaz on the show today. He's with a cool program called the Rainmaker Family. I'm going to let him talk about it. But the reason I wanted Steven to come on here, we often interview successful Christians, Christian millionaires, people who are just crushing it in life in all different arenas, who are living the increased life. And Steven's one of them. Steven's an amazing man of God who is making an impact. He's teaching others how to create businesses that are setting themselves free, setting people free, allowing them to focus on the things God has called them to do. You know, that's what we teach. That's what we do here. So I want to align with anybody else who's kind of on that same mission and that same track. And this is a guy who I've actually known for a couple of years. We have met through Funnel Hacking Live. We've seen each other's ads. I think that's how we met. I think we officially, I didn't think about this. We officially met, I believe, standing in line to get a 2 Comma Club award.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I turned around and I recognized your wife from her YouTube ads.
Ah.
So, as a marketer, I study ads. It's fun for me, as geeky as that sounds. But I recognized her because I remember the ad and turning to my business partner and be like, hey, this ad's really good. You know, like they do all this genius stuff. And then it's funny, being in ads almost makes you a mini celebrity. I've been stopped in public because people see my ads like I'm a TV star or something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened though. So Anyway, we started talking. They're awesome. The more I've got to know them, we're basically going to be best friends from this point forward. He doesn't know that, but you know, if you're on the
I can
show,
sense it. You know, you can feel it with certain people. There's like a spirit friendship already in the works of sorts, you know. There's a resonance.
I call it instant homies. There's a couple of people, like once or twice a year, I meet someone, I'm like, instant homie. Like, doesn't matter anything else. I got your back. So
love it. That's
Steven. I'm glad. Thanks for coming on the show. He's a busy man, a successful man. They got a lot going on. I want to hear, and I'm going to try to not talk as much because that just happens if I don't rein it in. I want Steven to kind of tell everybody what they're up to. Him and his wife, they do this together. I want to learn a little bit more. You can do a short version of the story or go as deep as you'd like. But as he goes through his story, I typically like to stop and ask, okay, what did that feel like? What was it like there? Okay, you got your first big check. Did things really change or were things kind of the same? And how did God play into this? You'd mentioned on one of your recent posts, they just did their own event in, was it Mexico?
Yeah, Mexico.
Yeah. And you had some interesting topics. I don't know if this is the place for that, but I'd kind of want to dive into some of those topics. Maybe there's a place for that during this little interview hangout we got going on. So I'm going to let you talk for a little bit. I'll hop in and be that annoying guy who digs for more.
I love it. Hey, well, thanks, man. Honored to be on the show. And it's always fun to hang out whenever we get together. It's always, when you get around people, we call this, one of my mentors calls it virtue, right? Like, it's like, there's certain people, certain friendships that you get around them and it's just like, there's just energy there, you know, and there's certain friendships or people you get around and it kind of drains it a little bit. Right. But Travis isn't one of those guys. So I'm super excited to be here and just share the journey. What we do, my wife and I, she's usually sitting next to me, do a lot of stuff together. And we're the business called the Rainmaker Family. And what we do is we help moms create time and financial freedom. So our mission is moms. We really are on a mission to become the #1 place for moms to do that online. And the vehicle we do it is a way of making money on Amazon. So basically, Amazon has 1 million customers, right? They got, millions of customers. I think 1 out of every 3 Americans is an Amazon customer, right? A Prime paying customer, which is wild. And then they have they have all these warehouses all over the world. And a lot of people buy stuff from Amazon. They don't really know where those products come from. And so what we do is we help moms become that kind of middle person, the person that's supplying the product to the warehouse that Amazon has. And then Amazon's handling all the shipping and stuff, which creates a fairly passive business that moms can do during nap time. They can do on the side of their corporate job. And honestly, serving moms has got like, we're really excited about it now, but to be honest with you, Travis, like when we jumped into it, we weren't really, it felt kind of awkward. We weren't really sure about it because I was not a mom and Chelsea was not a mom when we started our business. And so our story of how we got into Amazon, we were actually wedding photographers, and so we were shooting weddings every weekend, the wedding warriors, and we like scaled that business to the most we could, because we were the people doing the thing, right? And there's only so many Saturdays in a month, so we would shoot as many weddings as we could. But I think one year we did like 43 weddings. So it was like, I mean, there's like 8 weddings in May, like just double headers, because it's like wedding season is like half the year,
Yeah.
And so we really got super close to burnout on that business. And I think it was at the time I went to Funnel Hacking Live, I heard Myron speak on the 4 levels of value, which is like level 1 is like you're the person doing the thing and you're limited by you, because there's a ceiling on you. And yes, you might be like a brain surgeon, but you can only make so much because you can only serve so many people, And so he encouraged people to level up, and he gave these other levels. Level 2 is being the person who manages the people who do the thing and using your unification skills to unify people, to lead. And, you get to leverage the efforts of other people. And we weren't able to really do that in the wedding business. But when I heard that talk, I was like, whoa, we need leverage, And so honestly went on this, like, I call it the spaghetti season years. Maybe some of your listeners are in those years where you're just like throwing spaghetti against the wall, seeing what's going to stick. And you're just like, trying everything, right? Like the side hustle king, And honestly, like, Travis, I feel like I prided myself in that. Like I have 8 businesses, like I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I kind of wore it as a badge of honor, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Does it sound familiar? Yeah, it's definitely like a thing. I mean, I think you have to go through something like that a little bit because you're in the discovery zone, right? You're kind of like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
And in that season, I actually had a dream. I had I would say it's like a vision, that kind of like in between waking up and sleeping kind of state. One morning I was just kind of waking up, I saw this vision of a pot of boiling noodles. And I was in this like spaghetti season, and I heard this voice say, if you just boil one noodle, it'll boil a lot faster. You just boil one noodle, it'll boil a lot faster. Wow. And I wrote it down, and I was like, well, I mean, I pretty much knew it was about the business, but I was like, I wonder if it's about other things, right? Yeah. But it was just, we were trying to do so much stuff. And then we read Poverty, Riches, and Wealth, book by Chris Valentin. And in that book, he talks about how a vine overextended will just grow sticks. Like it will stop growing fruit because it just is like overextending itself. And you need to cut back. You need to trim the vine, so that you can grow more fruit. And in that season, God really led us in that of like, hey, you need to cut some stuff out if you want to see growth. Because it felt like we were sitting on a bunch of mini gold mines. It was like any of these things. Like I think the most frustrating thing, Travis, is that everything we did worked a little bit. Yeah. Right. Yes. It's like we had a photo booth business that worked a little bit. And then we had this wedding business that worked a little bit. And then we had, I was doing this like Instagram growth thing, and that worked a little bit, selling this software. And then we had this Amazon thing that worked a little bit. And we had this e-commerce. It was just like everything worked a little bit. Yeah. And, there's another analogy of, again, back to the vine. There's a book called The Pumpkin Plan. It talks about, if you grow 100 pumpkins, they're all going to grow the same size. But if you cut off all the pumpkins and you let all the nutrients go into one, it grows so much faster and bigger. And you end up with that prize winning pumpkin, and God was leading us into that in that season, and really calling us to cut stuff out. So we went through this like trimming season, cutting things out, like selling a business, retiring a business, quitting helping out at the youth group, like it was like stuff that you would think is good and like, oh wow, God wants me to help out at church. But it was like, no, we're supposed to really focus in the season, let all our nutrients go into this one thing. And the thing we chose was Amazon because it had leverage and it had some fruit. I think if you're in this season of doing a lot of stuff, you got to look at where's the fruit, right? Because like that's where you trim back to. When on a vine, you trim back to the fruit. And you want to choose the branches that are good, that are going to multiply in the future, right? And you cut off the stuff that's not producing. So we looked at the fruit, and in that season, when we looked at Amazon, we were selling on Amazon at the time. I had started teaching a couple people Like it was like my mom and like a friend and then like a friend of a friend. Like we had like a small group of people, like we were just teaching because for me, like I learn best when I have to teach it, you know? So I was just like, hey guys, and I was really excited about Amazon. I was like, let me show you what we're doing. We were making at the time $100 to $500 a day on Amazon, you know? And so there was something there, but it was not like, it was like, this thing could go way bigger if we lean into it, you know?
Let me ask you
And
this real quick. Let me ask you
yeah,
this real quick, because I think this is important. I'm kind of asking for myself. This is some of the stuff that I've been through, and I mean, a lot of that I mirror a lot of that same story where it's like I had a bunch of stuff, and most of them worked.
yeah,
They were kind of successful. I mean, pretty much everything I've ever launched made sales. So when you say cut back and prune, what you're essentially saying is I had to drop some of these things so I could focus on the one so it could grow faster. I really like that thing about boil one noodle and it'll go fast.
yeah.
I'm probably going to steal that. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
which actually to this day I've never tested that, which would be interesting. Like boil, like put a bunch of noodles in and then put one in. I think it's true because when you put a bunch in, it's going to cool down the water, right? You
yeah.
know, like you put in a bunch. I don't know, but I've never tested it, but it makes sense in the spirit, right? I was like, okay, like God, you're trying to get my attention, and it was
The
such a
theory is good enough.
vivid, you know,
Yeah.
vision. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's a prompting. Thank God, like he led us into that so gently, you know.
So let me ask you this part, because I'm sure people watching this are in that same boat. And I think I've done a pretty good job over the years of focusing in. I've got about 3 things going. So there might be even room for me to narrow this down a little more myself. Um, you said that Amazon, so basically people watching this, how do they know what to cut? So
Mm,
you said the Amazon one's producing fruit, but in a way they all were. So how do you
yep.
determine what is fruit? Because maybe fruit isn't just money, because there could be a scenario where this one's making me the most money, but actually it's
Mm,
the one I needed to cut because it's taking the most time, it's draining me. I actually
interesting.
don't enjoy it. It's kicking my butt, it's making me miserable. But if
Yeah.
I really wanted this one, oh, I love doing this one, man. This one fires me up, lights me up. It's not making as much, but I wonder if I put more focus into it, it would.
Interesting. I'm seeing like, you know, I love the gardening analogies. I'm not a great gardener, but God always speaks to me in these like, you know, gardening, and then he always does in the Bible. But I feel like it's also about the soil, right? It's like, okay, what's producing fruit, but like where is it planted, right? If I have an avocado tree, those are like kind of hard to grow, and maybe each avocado has one pit in it, right? And so each avocado, I can take that one pit and plant one more tree. But then, and maybe that avocado tree is like way far away. I got to walk super far to get there. It's all hot, and this avocado tree might die, you know? And then I have this apple tree that's like, you know, in the perfect spot. It's flourishing, and each apple has 12 seeds in it. You know what I mean? So, what I'm trying to say here is like when we looked at the opportunities we are doing, well, there was like 8 of them, 9 of them, 10 of them. I don't know how many there were at the time. We looked at, and again, like I'm looking back on this more with wisdom than I was then, for sure. I was
Yeah.
not this like thinking this way. I was just kind of like, this feels good. And it
Mhm.
feels like there's a higher opportunity. That's kind of how basic it was. But for looking back on it, I go, okay, what's the soil? Which one has scalability? Right. Because the photo booth business we had, it's like we had to hire a person. Yes, we could buy more photo booths, but we're in a small town. And it's like it had a ceiling. The wedding
Okay.
business, yes, we could hire more Stephen and Chelsea's and like kind of like have associate photographers. Some people do that, which we tried. And but it's still like there's friction there. It's still me and Chelsea showing up and all this stuff, right? And so we looked at what opportunities have kind of like unlimitless or like a limitless, unlimited potential
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to say. So you got to look at the fruit, what's producing fruit, but also look at the soil. Where is it planted, and can it grow really big and multiply really wide?
Let me ask one more follow up and then I'll let you keep going. Is there a place or in this decision, um, so was there a place where grace kind of factors in?
Mm,
And what I mean by great, kind of like my definition is that um, not that things are, I don't want to make things sound easy.
yeah.
There's a place when I think of grace, it's like I feel like I was designed for this.
Mm,
Over
yeah.
here, over here, man, everything was just grinding and toiling. I had to like force myself to make videos, and like I had to go write emails about a topic I didn't want to write about. But over here, it was just like,
Mm,
ah,
yeah.
just play in it all. And
No,
you're
I
just,
totally hear you. Yeah. And you have these seasons where the grace will shift, right? Like weddings were so exciting and we loved it. We were producing an amazing product and like we deliver a video or a photo gallery to someone, the bride would be crying. It was so amazing. And like there's life there, right?
yeah,
But then a couple weddings in, like we're getting like we're shooting, I mean, not a couple weddings in, a couple wedding seasons in. Now we're shooting 30, 40 weddings. We're in the 100-degree heat. And when you're looking at your phone during the reception, eating dinner off your lap, and you're seeing Amazon's making more than you made at the wedding, and you're like, wow, interesting. Like I worked really hard today for like $5,000 and we made this on Amazon, like the grace starts to shift a little. But I would say also like there's some supernatural timing in there where like when we before we got into how we got into Amazon was like kind of a fluke. Like I just one year I was like, I want to make a product. I just always had this idea of like, I want to make a physical product. I didn't know how. So I just was like, I want to go on the adventure of figuring out how. I don't care if I get scammed or like, I send all my money to Alibaba and like it's gone forever. I just want to learn. And we were
yeah,
actually making Kickstarter videos at the time. Like we had kind of like the wedding business, we had this Kickstarter business. So I saw other people launching products. I was like, I want to launch a product. I didn't know how. And so I started in this niche, these little wooden toys. They're like Japanese skill toys. They're called kendamas. And I started making these having a manufacturer make these skill toys. And this was right around the fidget spinner era. Okay. So you have kids. I don't know if they're around in the fidget spinner era. But that thing like took over the internet for like, a few months, right? It was kind of like those, what's the thing now? The popper things, like
pop it,
little,
pop
yeah,
it.
it's exactly. So that was like the thing.
We got a lot.
And I was selling this little fidget toy for the most part, it wasn't a fidget spinner. But I was selling this fidget toy and I just threw it on Amazon on a whim, just like, oh, it's an extra channel. And this fidget toy started selling like $600 a day. And it was just cranking. I was buying this thing for $1, selling it for 15. Amazon's taking 5. I'm making $10 a sale passively. And I was just like, that's where I caught the Amazon bug. And I was like, whoa, there's
Yeah,
something here, because I was in my house packing and shipping stuff too. So I was doing still like the level 1 stuff. I'm the person doing the thing. But when I experienced Amazon, it was like, oh, wow, there's people that can do it for me. Yes, I pay Amazon a fee, but I was selling more units than I could fulfill myself, and they're doing it for me. And so that definitely was like some supernatural grace in the timing of like, I put this product up early 2017, fidget spinners take off, and like we caught that wave. And that got me excited enough to learn about Amazon because that was an accident. That was, it was a miracle, right? But now we have a system to like figure out what's already selling before we even sell it.
here's the other thing I want to point out though is you did it. Like you literally I'll be honest with you. I've never struggled with the fear of failure or imposter syndrome or what like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time relating when other people do. I kind of get it and I do my best to help, but I never went through it. And I don't know if you have either, but just how you're talking where it's like, I just wanted to figure it out and try it. That's how I've been. But so many people, just you throwing something up on Amazon on a whim. Do you know how many people I've coached who like just can't do that? Like, it's just so like so much fear, so much being it's pulling teeth to get them to do that. And you're just like, I'll just try something.
I make it sound casual. There definitely was some mental barriers, but I think you build authority, right? It's like, David didn't just like fight Goliath, right? Like he had battles before that, like he fought the lion, fought the bear, like, so if you look at my history, like I sold stuff on eBay to buy my first camera. Like I sold like all this stuff on eBay. So I got that experience of listing things, putting it out there, selling it, you just like look back on your history. And a lot of times you build faith. So if this is your first faith step into some new territory, yeah, it's going to be scary. And for us, that first product inventory order was $500. So it's $1 an item, $1 a unit. and 500 units plus some shipping. So it was like 500 something dollars. And that was terrifying. Like, it was like, I was like, Chelsea's going to kill me if this money, like if I get scammed, and we got the product back. And when I got that in the mail, I was like, wow, it's real, So you got to take tiny steps of faith. And then like, our next inventory order was 2,000. Our next was 4, and our next was 16. Our next was 20. You build faith. You don't just go to like $25,000 inventory orders. So I think like one encouragement to your audience is like nothing is wasted in your history. All that side hustling, all that stuff, even the stuff in college, even the stuff that felt like a failure, like that stuff is all just building authority for what you're about to step into, because God doesn't lead you into a battle you're not already prepared for. He's been preparing you for this next step. It doesn't mean it's not going to be scary sometimes, or there's going to be a fear wall that tries to get in the way of you stepping through it. But it's about continually stepping in that. I think I just went through a season of like, I would just do something every day that would like scare me,
like that's what I'm talking. Like, that's the kind of stuff like that needs to be taught more, where it's like, or maybe I need to be teaching it more. So what I mean is like those, like the way that what always motivated me was I do talk about this a lot, but the cost of inaction.
Yeah.
I always wanted, like, age 16, even before that, I was like, I don't want a day job ever.
Yeah.
And then I got one and I was like, yeah, this is awful. This is what I thought. How do people do this? And so I've never wanted one. So the pain for me isn't the fear of, because the first time I did my very first business, I've got literally the horror story of all e-commerce horror stories. It happened. Like, worst case scenario happened. Like I'll tell it sometime, you'll crack up. But what was more scary is me going another year in a day job I hate. That's scarier to me than the thought of like me falling on my face and a customer getting mad at me and I lose $200. Like, I would much rather take that risk than staying where I'm at another 6 months, another year, the thought of going another 3 years without like progressing, dude, I'll take whatever risk to get out of this,
Yeah. And that's huge. And that's just renewed mind you guys are hearing. Like, if that's like, whoa, that's different thinking. That's just renewed kingdom mind, like wealthy people, like they're not asking how much does it cost? How much is the investment? It's like, they're saying, how much does it cost me if I don't do this? What's the cost of inaction? They're weighing both sides, like Chris Vallotton. I was just rereading the spiritual intelligence book for that talk in Mexico you saw. And he talks about how faith is like the foundational element, really in the spiritual realm on both sides of things, right? Faith, because like, if you have faith that God's going to heal, like that's one thing. But if you have faith, if you don't think God's going to heal, you actually have faith in the healing not happening. Right. So like their faith goes both ways. And the similar thing with jumping into business opportunities or investments or whatever, like you can have faith either way. Yeah. Both of them have power, both of them have power. If you don't think it's going to work and that's your faith, like that has power, And so it's about renewing your mind and getting around other people that like carry it. Cause like, this is crazy. Like they started measuring, like you ever hear people say like, borrow my faith. Like you can actually see that on brain scans now. If you borrow someone else's faith, isn't that crazy? So like, I always say that all the time. Hey, if you guys don't believe me about Amazon, that's fine. Just borrow my faith, just borrow my faith and borrow these thousands of other people that have done this, and borrow their faith for a season until you get your own. Cause I guess that's hope, like hope is, another Chris Vallotton quote, cause it's just fresh. He's like, hope is smelling something good cooking in the kitchen and faith is seeing the steak. But for a lot of people, they're not in the place to see the steak. But if you can get around other people so you can smell it in the kitchen, the steak's coming, And so that's why it's so powerful to listen to shows like this, to be around other people that carry this mindset, because faith is going to drive you either way. And those things that are going on in your mind, like, are so important. The battle is really for your mind. And that's the biggest way the enemy is trying to derail Christians, is just letting them use their own authority, their own faith, their own words to curse themselves.
Yes. Dude, I hope y'all taking notes. Like, I'm always taking notes when I got guests like Steven on here. That what he just said was so powerful. Listen to this again, please. Okay. So you've removed some spaghetti noodles.
Yep.
You focused on the fruit. And
That's
what you
right.
introduce, you prune some things back, basically saying like, okay, and it's painful because these things made money. And so what Stephen and his wife are like, I'm going to say no. We call them increase avenues. I'm going to say no to these increase avenues and focus on one main one.
Yep.
What happened next once you decided to lock?
So we focus on two noodles. Okay.
Okay.
So we had the wedding business going. The wedding business doing six figures at this point, probably 250,000 a year ish.
Okay. Were you taking most, was that a profitable? Were you taking most of that money home?
The thing is, we didn't measure it, which is terrible. So like now looking back on it, we felt like we were making great money, like, cause we'd make 300,000 a year, but like, it's both of us doing it and we're working a lot. So like, if you really took the numbers and broke it down, like our time, we probably weren't getting paid that much. You know what I mean? Overhead's not crazy in the photography business because you buy all the gear at the beginning, and then it's just kind of like, okay, there's some subscriptions and things. So a lot of it was profit. We were able to buy a house. Like it really did help us out. That being said, why was I talking about how much we made? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah. What happened next? Okay. So yeah, it's like, okay, this is a flourishing plant. Let's not just burn it to the ground. The other ones are smaller ones. Let's cut those. So we kept the wedding business going, and Chelsea really shifted her focus to like own that. And so she kept that thing going. She managed the clients. And then I started dabbling on Amazon a little bit heavier. Like I'm going to go into Amazon. I'm going to go do this thing. I was still working the weddings with her, but we outsourced pretty much every other job I had to editors and other things. And I was like all in on Amazon. So we both had those two things focused. And it was in that season I read Expert Secrets, Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets book. And I basically just followed that thing to the T. And so we did a webinar, and that webinar, the first webinar we did, it made about $60,000 selling an Amazon training program, just showing people what we had done on Amazon and how they could do it as well. And so that was like crazy money for us at the time. Like it was mind blowing, like we're running around the house, like we're going to be millionaires. Like, I mean, he says in the book, you're one funnel away. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Right. And what we didn't know at the time, now we're seasoned marketers, was that was a warm audience. It was like friends of friends of friends. It was like clients from the wedding world that were on the webinar. Like we didn't run ads. We just like posted on Instagram, And so we thought we had an awesome webinar that we could scale to the moon, and like, boom, like we got it made. And we proceeded to, after that season, basically burn the entire $60,000 trying to scale something that didn't have legs to scale. So we hired and
create it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was just like, we, I was in the car the other day with my son, and he was like, he's 2 years old. He had a lollipop, right? We go get haircuts. He gets a lollipop, and he's like, can I bite it? Right. And I was like, what? I mean, if you bite it, yeah, you can bite it. Like there's some good stuff in the middle, but like, once you bite it, it's like kind of gone, instead you could just like keep licking it. Like you're licking it, you can enjoy it for a long period of time. Right. And so in that season, we kind of wanted to bite it. It was like, we were like, let's be millionaires. Let's scale this thing. Let's reinvest it all back in. And we bid it, and it was gone. We were really supposed to, I feel like, go a little bit slower and go internal. But I honestly think we needed that kind of wall, because the wall at the time, Rainmakers was for everybody. It was like, who wants passive income? The whole world wants passive income, right? So like, it's for everyone, And, in that season, we started working with Pedro Adeo, and he was mentoring us. And he's like, you need to niche this thing down. Like, it's not for everyone. If your thing's for everyone, it's for no one, And so he was the one that really called. What was that?
That's a hard pill to swallow sometimes in business.
Yeah, because there's a scarcity mindset of like, oh, I mean, like if I go down too far, like if I define my thing, it's only for, this type of person, then what about this other person, right? There's like this poverty mindset that comes in. But if you have an online business, like the world is so big. And so Pedro's like, narrow it down, choose a person. And we, again, looked at our fruit, right? We looked at our fruit of the program so far. We had maybe 100 people in at this point doing webinars and kind of struggling for a whole year. And we looked at who was winning and who was doing well, and it was moms. And so we just narrowed it down. We're like, we're going to serve moms with this thing. And when you do that, like, this is a marketing secret. when you narrow your person down like that, it makes everything so much easier. Like copywriting, so much easier because you're just talking to that one person. Funnel, so much easier. Ads, so much easier because you're not trying to serve everyone. You're just like, how can I serve a mom? And at the time, our audience, like our avatar has shifted a little bit, but at the time, our mom was building a business during nap time. So that was our hook. It was like build a 6-figure side hustle during nap time.
Beautiful.
And like, boom. And so like we made everything about that. All the trainings were short. Everything was like about buying back your time. You can do this during nap time. And we went so narrow, Travis, that like on Facebook ads, it was like our audience was like 60,000 people. So we went like, we went moms,
Super
homeschool moms, homeschool moms with young kids, homeschool moms in classical conversations, a very specific homeschool program. Okay. Because I didn't want broke homeschoolers, and that's an expensive one. That's all I knew about it. Like if you probably have some listeners who like know what that is, but like I had no idea what that program was at the time. But I was like, that's like, I just asked homeschool people. I was like, what's like a premium homeschool program? And there was classical conversations. So we narrowed it super tight. And we ran ads to that, and we started doing challenges as well. Pedro really helped us start doing challenges as our model to bring people in. And those two things were the breakthrough. I mean, we did our first challenge at 60,000, our second at 100,000. And then our third challenge was a $1.2 million challenge. And then we went on to do $7 million challenges in a row promoting Rainmakers. 7? Yeah. I think so.
Well, look at your wall behind you. You guys see those one of those gold records means at least $1 million running through there.
Yeah. And this is where, I mean, I can share my screen, Travis, because like this, I feel like the Stripe account shows the story so well. Because like you guys are hearing this, but like literally, like, you know, this is business, right? Look at this. This is my Stripe account. Okay. So we've done $16 million in this business, life of the business. I started that in 2017. Like I said, this is that first webinar. You see that little bump right there? You see that tiny little bump right there?
Hold on. That tiny bump is more than what most people make in a year.
Yeah. So that was is 60,000. So 30,000 plus some payment plans. See that, like 10,000 a month or so. And then we just like struggled this whole year. Our Facebook ad account went down. We kind of became a victim to it. We're like, oh, like this sucks. Like we thought this thing was going to be $1 million, and we just burned all that money just trying to scale it. Then we met Pedro around here, helped us niche down. Boom. That's our first challenge, May 2019. 60,000 is 40,000 cash collected that month, and then some payment plans. See that? Then we we invested $2,000 in ads, and that was a scary number for us. $2,000 at the time, like we're still shooting weddings. It was like, oh my gosh, this is like a lens, like a camera lens. You know, $2,000 on the Facebook, casino.
Yeah, right.
and it produced 30 full return, you guys. 30 full return. That's insane. So then we built some faith, and we coached those people for 4 months, and I'm still doing all the coaching. Level 1, it's me doing the coaching at this point. So I can't scale it beyond like 30 students or so. So we do another challenge in October. We raised the price to 3K instead of 2K. We spent 10,000 on ads, and this is a 6-figure challenge. $100,000, 60,000 cash collected with some payment plans. So $100,000. And so come January, we have a baby right here in December. So our first son, Kaizen. So we become parents. Now we're serving moms, but we become parents. And all of a sudden it becomes very real what we're doing, because we're like, if we can empower moms with time and financial freedom, like they can raise world changers. And we felt the weight of it on a new level because we were parents now. Like it was like God prepared us for this thing. Chelsea's pregnant this whole time. We're doing these challenges, but like we stepped into it, and you talk about that grace, like delivering a wedding to someone and getting, oh, wow, I'm crying. I'm seeing the wedding video. Oh my gosh. Like that was pretty fulfilling, but like getting a postcard in the mail from one of our students being like, dad is home because of you.
Yeah.
Like I built the business, and dad is cooking breakfast for the kids every morning because of you, because he quit his job because of this business. We're able to go on extra vacations. We bought our dream home. Like that stuff is the stuff that I was like, this is what we were made to do. Everything we've done in the past has been about legacy. Like weddings is legacy. It's about creating a thing for the future generations. Like we're preserving legacy and prophesying it. We're on the wedding day. We're like, this is for the grandkids. Boom, But the financial legacy, when we started stepping into that with people, there was another grace on it. There's a life on it. And it was like, this is why we do what we do. You know, like our breakthrough is not just for us, it's for other people. And we're scaling our Amazon business still at the time here. And so we lean in heavy. January 2020, we're like, let's spend 20,000 on ads. Again, we're just building faith. 2,000, 10,000, 20,000. It's working. And we're certifying coaches right here because I'm like, hey, if this thing's going to go beyond us, I can't be all the coach. I can't do all the coaching. So at this point, we've been doing the business 3 years. We got some case studies. We got some 6-figure sellers, people almost crossing 7 figures. So we start certifying them in our coaching method. And we spent 20,000 on ads, or at least we thought we were going to, but it was going really well. So we spent $65,000 on ads.
Right. Okay.
I remember being like in a small group that week, and I was like, I like can't tell these people, like these like Christian, like this guy makes $60,000 a year, and I just blew that on Facebook this week. You know?
Yeah. Oh, dude. See,
crazy, right? And then boom,
awesome.
That's our first $1 million challenge, 1.4 in February 2020. Right? Wow, perfect timing too.
Perfect timing. My daughter was born in February of 2020.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Literally the month before.
Yeah.
And
but it was crazy. I mean, that was a big level up for us, you know. And what I didn't mention here, Travis, is right here in this whole season, we're doing a lot of inner game work. Like we're going through Pedro's program. We went through Keith Fronte's Emerging Profits. We went through a bunch of identity stuff. Like I feel like God saved us here, because if we went up to $1 million here, that would have destroyed us.
Interesting.
Because we were not the people that could carry the capacity that's here.
Okay.
Because when we brought all these people on, 300 plus students, now we're at a $3,000 price point for our program. Actually, I think it was more than 300. Yeah. I don't know how many students that is, but when we stepped into this, and then the world like went upside down, like the people we had to become in this process were the people that could carry that, you know?
Okay. But listen to this, guys. So when you're doing that season right there, not a ton of money was coming in, and you did inner work. But what you said was, I went through Pedro's program. I went through the other guy's program. Did you invest money for those programs?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We went through multiple programs, investing in ourselves.
How much ballpark me between those two? 20 grand?
Between those two, that was probably 10K. And then we did one of Russell's programs, 25K. Okay. And I mean a bunch of other random stuff in between, you know, but it really was that like I think there was so much identity stuff, you know.
It's so important. So this is kind of what I know our time's running short, but if you could help us here, because I understand what you just said, because I've paid the 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand for stuff for coaching programs. It's hard for a lot of people, especially Christians, to go and buy coaching, to go and buy and invest in themselves. They'll gladly go back to college for 4 or 5 years for a degree that gets them no money and doesn't do anything. And then they'll pay for it for the next 20 years. They're fine with that. But man, 10 grand for coaching, for videos and
that was spiritual.
I can figure it out on my own. I can figure it out on my own. Like I can just watch YouTube videos. I don't need that. Talk on that for a minute and how important that is, and why we have to be that people who does things like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful because I mean, we hesitated to like invest in ourselves in education for so long. We started doing it in our photography business. We went to like one conference. It was $600, and it was like that one conference. Like it was like one point that one speaker made changed our lives.
Yes.
And it was like, that was worth 600. That was worth so much money to us. It was scary, but then it was like, wow, we should do this more. So then that started it. So if you haven't invested in yourself, which like the stats of people that ever buy a personal development book or anything is just like so low. It's crazy. Just take a tiny step in the right direction, do it, because you are good soil and you're going to produce good fruit, you know? And so we started doing this. We built some faith, but I invested so heavily in the business realm in that whole like kind of abyss season of like feeling like we are sitting on a gold mine, but hitting the wall, right? Like, it's like, we know it has $1 million potential, but we're hitting a wall, right? I was investing a ton in the business side of things, like business coaching, honestly, from a bunch of worldly guys. And I really felt out of balance. I was like super heavy into like, the Russell world and like all these other people in that ClickFunnels world. And God really convicted me. He's like, have you invested in your spiritual life? So
Yeah.
we actually, before 100X, we did a local ministry school. That did a lot of the identity work. 100X was kind of that business and spiritual. And then
Right.
Keith's program was it's another spiritual investment. It was it's like a prophetic class. That was $4,000. Okay. Like it was 2,000 per, me and Chelsea. And we would drive 2 hours to get there and 2 hours back every Wednesday. And so like you got to pay the price sometimes, but you also have to be investing in the right things. Like if you need it, like you got to figure out where you are. Like if you're out of balance spiritually, maybe it's there. If you're out of balance in the business, go there. I had like beefed up my business side of things, but the spiritual stuff was all out of whack, And so you need both, right? To like, to have the foundation that God can build on.
Yes.
Right? Like he's such a loving God. He's not going to like, I wouldn't give my son something that's going to overwhelm him and destroy him, a responsibility that's like beyond his age, right? Or his maturity. And so like, God is so good to do. Like, I'm so glad that we went through that season, because who we had to become in that season is who we needed to be to go where we're going.
Yeah.
So,
and what's cool about those seasons is they can feel painful. If you're probably like me, we're driven by progress. We like advancement. Our word is increase. We like increase. But there's times where it's kind of like, it's not like what's happening, but I think you can shift those seasons and enjoy them. They don't have to be as painful as other people make them out to be.
Yeah.
I think you can get into a spot where you're like, it's kind of like going to the gym and working out, where you're like, I know this is going to be worth it. I know this is going to be worth it. Okay. And you get smiling, you can get enjoying it. You can dive in deeper. You can press harder. You can get after it. And in those trying seasons, you could say, you can enjoy it too. They don't have to be, I don't want people to think that like, and you didn't say this or anything, I just think people think this, is there's a journey to this. And his Stripe account explained the journey, right? Which is super fun. I'm glad you did that. That was super cool. And in that lull season, it seemed like a lull, but that's when the stuff was happening. It's so corny, but like, you've heard it. It's the slingshot just getting pulled back.
Yep.
So that it could go further, faster.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all that was. You can enjoy those times too. It's that time of like, I'm getting better. This is fun. I need to learn. Lord, what do I need to learn next? You're asking the Holy Spirit, asking him for wisdom. James 1:5. What do I need to learn next to prepare myself for the great things you've got coming? You can smell what's in the kitchen. I smell it. It's coming. Let's go.
Man, that's so good.
I like that.
No, it's so powerful. And it's a huge, I am such, this is like I keep coming back to this verse because it's in the Bible multiple times, at least 4 or 5 times. Jesus says this about different things, is that he that has will have more in abundance, but he that has not, even that will be taken away. It's that like, if you focus on what you have, you focus on that abundance, it's going to multiply. If you focus on what you don't have, it's going to be taken away. But there's this kind of weird balance, because a lot of us have big goals. Like, I want to make $1 million, right? Or whatever that thing is. And sometimes you can look at that and you actually get in the lack of not having that. Right. Yeah. So you actually have to look at where you're at, but also even looking back, looking back. I mean, like, if you look at this, like, and we would constantly do this, like we did look at this, like, wow, $18,000 in a month, in our wedding business, that would have taken this and this and this, but we're doing that online. Like, so we were super grateful in the moment and looking back at like, wow, look how far we had come, but there's still frustration in there of like, oh, I know where there's something here, And so it's always been a looking back to go like, what do I have? What do I have? What do I have? And that gratefulness is what multiplies it. And you can see like, even in these in-between months, like these are launches, these big spikes, but look at the in-between months. So in-between months are just our baseline is going up 125 up here. We launched our Evergreen Challenge. Now it's like 300, it's like 300 a month. Then we do some launches. And this is the crazy part, Travis, like this is so wild. Like, this is a process. Okay. God raised us up to here, but then from here to here, who we had to become to have an 8-figure business was really hard too. It was good, but it was also hard. Like, there was another person that we had to become to go here, which is August, $1 million. October, $1 million, September, $1 million. So we're doing $1 million months now, but this took some insane breakthrough. We had to fight for some crazy stuff here to get to here, where it's $1 million months in this business.
Would you
this
say
was the hardest thing? Like who we had to become to go from 7 to 8. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so, and this is hard to convey to people because, yeah, I would be a testament of it, and a lot of the people you and I look up to and learn from have all said this, and now you're saying it, is you would think that those spikes in the baseline of your revenue going up was because you learned new strategies and tactics. I got better at ads. I got better at funnels. I got better at business.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is I got better as a human.
Yeah. It's so backwards, right?
Better at business.
Yes.
We talk about and you've already said this today, but it's focusing on the spiritual and the rest happens. The rest grows as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk on that.
Like from 0 to 6, it's like all you and scrappy 6 figures. 6 to 7, it's like scrappy, but maybe you're building a little bit of a team. 7 to 8, it's about like releasing control. It's about like, it's like parenting, right? Like there's different, from 0 to like, I don't know, 12, right? You're like parenting, right? And then like from 12 to like 18, you're kind of like, you're starting to transition, right? From like parenting to like, okay, I'm empowering and mentoring, right? And then like 18, like now I'm like kind of a peer, right? Like it's like there's different seasons and you have to become a different person. You also have to release something. And same thing with business at different levels. You have to actually kind of release things. And so having peace internally is so powerful in that. So you're being led, because a lot of the strategies too that I'm not sharing here as much is like they don't make sense. So the reason we're doing $1 million months now is because we said no to things that like normal people would probably say yes to. So I guess let me dive into that. I know we're getting close to time here, but like
more pruning.
Yeah, when we were early in the business, wedding business. Okay. Like wedding business is like seasonal, right? Like summers are great. Winters are dry. Right. We had a winter that was like especially dry. Like we just didn't budget and like bank account was really low. And we really felt kind of the stress of money. I don't know if you've ever felt that, like, kind of like, whoa, you like feel it in your shoulders and your body. And it was like, we didn't like it, like this is not like money is having power over us. And Chelsea and I have always had this call to be generous and like, give our money. And so we really noticed like self-awareness in that season, ourselves being like orphans. Like we were feeling the stress of money. We were acting out in orphan tendencies, emailing vendors from the wedding industry, like, hey, like, you have any jobs for us? Like, it was just like desperation. Right. And we didn't like it. Luckily we had God like interrupted us and gave us self-awareness to see it.
Yeah.
So in that season, we decided to take money. We had maybe, I don't know how much in the bank, $5,000, $6,000 in the bank total. We took about half of it out, it was about $3,000, and we gave it away. But we really felt like that was what we were supposed to do, to say to money, you're not going to tell us how to feel or what to do. Like, we're going to tell you what to do. And if we're called to be generous, we're going to do that regardless of how we feel. Right. And so we took that money and we gave it away. And I feel like it broke the power of money in that season for us.
100%.
But the thing is that same devil, right? It likes to knock at new levels, right? And it likes to knock on your head and say, let me in, let me in, let me in. And it's so funny. Now that we have $1 million business in 2021, God asked us to do that again. It was like, do you want to go to the next level? Like the same thing started knocking our head with this like poverty. Now we have way bigger overhead. We got 50 people on the team. We're supporting all these families, and we're about to do a launch, and God's like, don't do it. He's like, don't do the launch. We're about to have our second son. And so we actually had 2 launches planned. So this would have brought in $1 million plus. He said no to both of them. We didn't feel like we're supposed to do them. We felt like we're supposed to rest. So we rested. We had our son. We had some medical stuff happen with him that we had to be in the hospital. So it was like, I'm so glad we didn't launch that thing. Thank God. But in the resting season, we actually didn't do any launches all of 2021 until August. And so we usually do these challenges like every 3-4 months. And that just like, that really spikes your revenue. But in the resting season, because God was just like, rest, 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 take time off. We took 2 months off of the business when we had the baby. And in that season, new strategies came. And those new strategies are the reason that the business broke through from 7 to 8 figures. In August, we did a live challenge and we flipped it to an evergreen model because in that rest, we had this evergreen thing going, building this evergreen thing. And God was preparing us for the battle we're about to go into, or the season, I should say, even the promised land we're about to go into. So we broke through and now we're at $1 million months because we followed the heavenly strategy that did not make sense. In the world, they're like, just hustle, grind, just launch. You have something that works, just freaking do it, you know? But we're like, no, like God says, rest. Let's go internal. Let's protect the family. And thank God we did, you know? And that's the stuff. That's the stuff. Just learning to hear and just being like, I'm going to be obedient to what I'm sensing, you know, even when it doesn't make sense. And we had a lot of confirmations on that one because it was like scary not to do that launch. We felt it though. And then like our team member had a dream. So like there's multiple things going like, don't do it, you know? And I'm so glad we didn't, you know, like it was so much better that we didn't try to take it into our own hands and bite the lollipop, right? Like we're like, let's go slow. Let's focus on what we have. And like, it's going to come in timing.
There's so many clues to success in that monologue you just gave us, that story you just gave us. There's so much to dissect. I mean, even starting with we gave half our money away in a time when we needed money most, when we were feeling scarcity as strong as possible. We talk about the spirit of Mammon, as Mammon was trying to make me feel a certain way about money. I'm saying I'm the boss. We have a teaching where I basically make you, that's how I look at it, I make you go, and from now on, you buy the expensive gas for your car. Because for your whole life, you've been trained to pick the cheaper option.
Wow.
And I tell the story of how when money was tight for me, that's when I noticed how I'm picking everything cheap. And I would just go to the expensive gas just to tell the devil they ain't the boss of me. Like I ain't afraid of nothing.
I love it. I love it. That's so good.
Yes. And my car probably wasn't supposed to take it. I don't know. I don't care. But from now on, that was, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And it's those types of things. I got a buddy who, anytime money feels tight, he'll buy everybody's meal when he goes out to eat, and then he'll leave $100 tip.
Wow. Yeah.
Because he's like, I got to keep myself out of self-preservation mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And keep my trust in God as my source. And
so
powerful. You're doing these things, but what I want everyone listening to see is like, these are common traits of the successful. It's not that it's so powerful about that story. You might look at him like, yeah, Stephen makes 16 mil. That's why he's generous. No. He did those things when money was tight. He did those things before. Proverbs 11:24 says, the generous will be made wealthy. But we're all living like, oh, when I'm wealthy, I'll be generous. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah. Like being wealthy doesn't make being generous easy, or it actually makes it harder. That's the crazy part. So if you don't do it in the little, it's not going to happen in the lot. It's like
Jesus tried to warn us about that, I think.
I think so, right? There's something in there.
But man, I love that you invested in yourself. You give money away when it hurts. You just said, I'm not going to let this feeling take. I mean, it's so spiritual. It's so powerful. And what it really is you walking in authority. Jesus said that we are to reign as kings in this life. We are kings and priests, a royal priesthood. And that's how you live. That's the actions and thoughts and decisions they're making. I'm not saying it was super easy, but I'm saying they were obedient. They listened. They entered into God's rest, like it talks about in Hebrews. And it says you got to labor to enter into that rest. It means it's got to work. It was tough to get there, but we chilled for most of 2021. And during that time, God supported us the whole time, supplied for us the whole time. And then he supplied new strategies and ideas. And then you executed on them. Dude, I'm telling you, like, you're telling a story. I think we all kind of do this. You're telling the story like, and I'm like, no, you don't. I hope people listening are getting this or taking notes or seeing like, what did Stephen do that I'm not doing? How is he making decisions differently than I'm making decisions? Because you can't say he's in a different spot than you. He is now, but it's because he made those decisions the way he made those decisions. And so I want people dissecting that. I want people to know that this life is possible for anybody. And look, here's kind of one of the last things I'll say is he just showed us his Stripe account, his bank account, basically, is where his money comes through, which is so cool. Thank you for doing that. He's a man who has created wealth and created a way that, so changed his life, his family's life, but is also, he's blessed to be a blessing. So now he's got a big team that he is funding and supporting, not only financially, but also spiritually and with the coaching lessons. I'm sure they're leveling up. Your employees are, your team is, but then the people who buy your stuff, their lives are changing. So this guy is having a massive impact in the finances. I know very few of you listening to this will verbalize this struggle, but I think we can all have it if we're not intentional, is that, man, I don't want to make money on that level because then I'll be like greedy, or I'll probably start becoming selfish or things like that. So, I mean, I would be great if I was just making like 100 grand a year. Just give me the six figure. I'd be great at that photography scenario you talked about. That'd be great. But I want you to just kind of, and maybe you can wrap up with this. I don't care. You can talk as long as you want, but if you want to wrap up with this, is talk a little bit about that mindset of, hey, if I become wealthy, is there a chance I'll become greedy or selfish or evil or whatever? And now that you've experienced becoming wealthy, how did that play out?
Yeah, man, it's a good question. I think like I said, what you do in the little will be multiplied in the lot, you know, like when like money just amplifies things, you know? So before you make money, get the stuff right. You know, like the little thing in your marriage, you know, money will amplify that thing, good or bad. Okay. So like get that foundation right. Cause that's why, I mean, you see a lot of marriages fail, like when there's success brings pressure, health. It's like, it's good pressure, but it's like, I mean, it's like the apostles and the prophets, right? Like you build on top of them. They're the foundation, you know? And so if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably like very apostolic, right? You're a builder, you're a new territory. You're like, I want to pioneer. And so like, you got to look at that foundation. So just know that like money is just going to amplify what you have. If you're already a good person, which you probably are, if you're listening to the show, you're already generous. Like it's just going to amplify those things, you know? And if you're not already that, like just get to know yourself, because God sees you as righteous, you know? Like one thing Chelsea and I did, I'll leave you guys with this. If you haven't done this, do it. Okay. One of our mentors in that early season, 2018, it was a local ministry school we're going through. They just had us read Romans 4-8. Okay. Romans 4-8 over and over again. Now don't just read it in like little chunks. Sit down and read the whole thing 4-8. It's going to take you 30 minutes, but do that. Just do it like once a day or do it once a week for as long as you need to. Because for me, it took about a month and some change. For Chelsea, it took about 2 months, over and over and over. And all of a sudden, you get it. There's something in there for you, and it'll change your entire life. And so once you see that about you, like you're going to be okay with the abundance, because you know it's going to multiply that good stuff, which is Christ in you. So do that. That's my homework for you. I just gave you some homework. But I'm so excited just to like hang out with you, Travis, more. I'm sure we'll be in alignment more in the future. But thanks so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. I literally could talk to you for hours. First off, everyone needs to do the Romans 4 through Romans 8 thing. He said, if you want results,
4-8.
He told you how he did it. So I feel like you'd be foolish to not follow his instructions. There's a scripture, I think it's in Proverbs 16, that says those who respect a command will prosper. So let's respect this and he'll prosper. Second, if you are a mom or no one and you don't have that time and financial freedom you want, you need to go check out his program. Where should they go to do that?
Yeah. I'd say Instagram right now. We're trying to grow our Instagram. So it's the Rainmaker Family on Instagram. Chelsea's like always doing like educational reels and inspirational stuff over there. So you can get a lot of free stuff. You can find our podcast, the Rainmaker Family Show, through there.
Yeah.
And then we have a link in bio if you want to check out more about what we do. So yeah, thanks so much, Travis. Really appreciate you.
All right. Love you, man. Appreciate you.
All right.